The recording has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California, and this is Success Sadhana. And my name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we are starting a new series, the Superpower series. And today's topic is an attitude of gratitude with a speaker, Vaish, Bhakti Yogi, author, and former monk. Welcome, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Success Sadhana.
Oh, thank you so much, Jam. I'm very grateful to be here. And we're talking today about one of the inherent qualities of the conscious being, which is gratitude. It just gets covered over sometimes. But it's actually a practice that's recommended to bring us into the present and to help us overcome the dread disease of entitlement. So we'll talk about that today. It's very simple but practical. I think it's just an adjustment. We need to adjust our various aspects of our body. Every once in a while, our mind definitely needs adjustment from time to time. And one of the ways to do that is to come back into gratitude. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us. There's so many here today. Radhakripa Rajesh Prabhu is here. We have M. Bautis. Sorry, can't quite pronounce that. JM is here. Mayank, Rebecca, Wolf, Angie, Ravi, Jay Kali, Subhadra is by the ocean somewhere. Debbie, live stream is here. Mayank's otter is here. Gar, Madhuri, welcome. Rashi, Tulsi, Raj, Aditya, Manish, Shravanam, Pratibha, DJ Tone, Angela, hi, thanks for coming back. And now I'm getting out of my depth because more are coming in. So last night we had a really nice meditation session just before we signed off on another program. And I thought it would be a good idea to start today's program with some mantra meditation. So one thing we can do every day is regulate our breath. And in this next mantra, which is Nitai Gauranga, you can both do the pranayam, or the regulation of your breathing, as you're saying the mantra. It actually helps you. And as you'll see, I'm going to play the tempura, and it's for those who want to find it online. When you try this, it's a C scale that I'm using. It's on. There's plenty of tempuras, Tanpura, on YouTube, and you just pick your key. I find that middle C works well in a group. So, Jayam, why don't we go to the mantra Nitai Gauranga? In the meantime, the rest of us will try this technique of sitting up a little straighter than we were a second ago. And we'll take 1 second or a minute. Actually, we'll just take half a minute to practice, before we chanting the mantra, a little bit of breathing, because you can bring your mind into more of a peaceful state, a productive state. And here's a breathing exercise that we can try today. It's called the 4-7-8. And doesn't require any equipment, doesn't take much time, and you can do it anywhere. So sit with your back straight. And the first thing that we'll do is take an inhalation through your mouth at the count of 4. So that's 4 counts in. Let me just say it first before we go through it, and then I'll walk you through it. So through your mouth, it's an inhalation, and then you hold for the count of 7, and then exhale completely through your mouth the count of 8. So I neglected to say the prelude to this, which is to exhale completely. So now that everyone's sitting, you can try closing your eyes. And the first step, please just follow me. And I'm going to turn on the tempura for us. The first step is to exhale completely through your mouth. And close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose to a mental count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. And when you've counted to 7, exhale completely through your mouth for the count of 8. So do it at your own pace, and then we'll start the mantra. Exhale completely through your mouth. Inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. And exhale through your mouth to the count of 8. And now I'm going to chant the mantra Nitai Gauranga, and I'll take a long breath in between, the same count out and the same count of inhale. And you can follow with me behind muted mics. Nitai Gauranga 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 Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga. And now to finish, exhale through your mouth, close your mouth, and inhale quietly through your nose to a mental count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. And then exhale completely through your mouth to the count of 8. And you open your eyes, come back into the room. And you can remember this 4-7-8 breathing, and then you can do your mantra, Nitai Gauranga. We did 10 mantras then, and you can regulate your breath around that, and it'll bring your mind to complete focus. Open up the heart channel. So speaking of which, let's talk about gratitude for a minute. And we'll go to a couple of slides. Gratitude is one of our superpowers, and it's to be developed. It's just a half inch away from us at every second. We can flip a switch and actually have gratitude shining everywhere. And when the light of gratitude is shining, we see the world in a completely different light. And we see ourselves in a different way as well. JM, are we coming to the slide land? So as we go through these slides, you can consider whether you're cultivating gratitude or whether it just comes to you spontaneously at some times. Or you might notice that it's something that you haven't reached for in a while as a practice. But while JM's figuring out where the slides are, let's take a moment to just see if anybody's feeling grateful. Good to have a little human interaction to start.
So grateful to have your association, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Rashi. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you, Subhadra. Send a heart out to everybody. Okay, well, let's talk about our occupation. Thank you very much, Rajesh. So, I've told you this before, but it's an exercise worth going back to. I haven't filled one of these out for a while because I have that special pass where you can come back in the country without filling it out, but every country has one, and I know the one in America has this disembarkation card, and on it, it has a little area where you fill in what your occupation is. So many times I've sat there when I'd had to fill these out going into a country thinking, what is my occupation actually? And then it came to me one day when I was reading from one of the wisdom literatures about our actual nature and what is the use of a miraculous world if there isn't somebody to appreciate it. And as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, our occupation, good work if you can get it, is to be an appreciator. So this is homework. Next time you're filling out a form and it says occupation, try putting appreciator in the blank space and see how that goes. So gifts are everywhere, but what's our capacity to appreciate them? And in one of my teacher's books, he had written in a paragraph this phrase, appreciating capacity. Perhaps it's on the next slide, JM. But if we remember this phrase, appreciating capacity, we can gauge how we are doing in relationship to the miraculous world. Everything that happens to us and everything around us actually is miraculous. But in a state of mind called tamas, which is on the far right, you probably could tell, and it's written there, we have no appreciation. Have you ever been in a mindset where you can't appreciate anything? Maybe you had a fleeting moment or an hour where you're feeling that I don't like anything. I don't like anybody. I don't even like myself. Anybody been there before? Maybe for a second or two. Is it possible? I got to check the chat box.
Yes,
It's
it
possible.
happens many times.
So thank you, Rashi. There's a way in which we can slip into this modality, and it is one of the modalities of nature called tamas, which is characterized by darkness, moroseness, and a sense where I don't like anything, I don't like anybody, nobody likes me. And this is a very dark place to be. In this state of tamas, there's no appreciation at all. The next modality, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, these three modalities have from dark to light going upwards. In Rajas, we have restricted appreciation. There's a little bit here and there, it pops through, but it comes through this filter that's a little smoky. So we don't see it fully, we just have a little appreciation. But in sattva, the highest modality in the material world, there's expansive appreciation. So we can actually, through lifestyle changes, through mantra meditation, through introspection and so forth, rise from tamas to rajas, from rajas to sattva. And in that modality, one of the symptoms is that our appreciating capacity expands. What if we lived like that? What if when we observed what's going on in our lives, we're able to appreciate? Even the most advanced practitioners appreciate what appears to many people to be reversals and so forth. But it is facilitated by a clear lens to look through, and that's called sattva. So if we were to essentialize a spiritual practice from the context of the Bhagavad Gita, I think we could get away with saying it means to have an ever-increasing appreciating capacity. How much can it increase? Well, I think the hyphenated word there says it all. It's ever increasing for those who are in a spiritual practice. So imagine how that makes you feel when you're able to appreciate. And finally, for this segment, before we get into a few reflections, gratitude calls us to the present and the present to us. Couldn't resist doing that. But when we're in gratitude, when we're practicing gratitude, we're observing the world right now. We're not projecting into the future, what might happen, which takes us out of that sense of gratitude, and we're also not dwelling on the past, but we're in the present, seeing what we have now, and that brings us the presence of the world, that is, the gifts. So that's a preamble to some other points that I'm going to make about gratitude, but gratitude is a thing. It actually is a superpower. It's something that we already have and can be developed. And I would like to just get your reflections on that last statement. I'm giving a thesis statement, and that is that gratitude is natural because our occupation is that we are appreciators. And with the spiritual practice, we can increase our appreciating capacity. It can be ever increasing. That's my thesis statement. Please tell me what you think of it. Would you like to challenge it? Do you agree with it? If you agree with it, please say why. I need some human interaction here, so you're going to have to work with me. Rashi.
So Maharaj, the first point you said that we have the natural instinct of appreciation. So I have never experienced that, but the second part is it can be cultivated or developed through spiritual practice. So which I am experiencing, as in I can see that by following this from a year and a half. I can see that is increasing in me, but it was never there before. So I really don't know when you said that we are natural appreciators. So I have no experience on that. But it sure is increasing.
So if I understood you correctly, through various spiritual practices that you've taken up, it's peeking through. You're seeing that it's there.
Yeah, right. It is there. That's why it is increasing. You
Okay.
caught me.
Nice. Well, it's good to know. If we don't look for it, and if we also don't see that it's part of our nature, then we might not look for it either, or we might just consider the world's the way it is. But actually, as stated by Epictetus many years ago, a Greek philosopher, that we don't see the world the way it is, we see the world the way we are. And with the mind that's being purified and we're seeing things as they are, reality is beautiful. Everything about the world is miraculous. So the spiritual practice means to uncover our natural appreciating capacity. And as we uncover ourselves, that appreciating capacity increases. Oh, look, Preeti's here. Preeti, please go ahead.
I don't know how to
Hello.
raise my hand.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Your hand's up. And after you, Angela can go.
Hello, Maharaj.
Hi.
So I have been wondering about this concept of appreciation. Generally my experience has been that the world or people around are very outcoming with feedback, and sometimes it comes across as criticism. Oh, you know what? You could have done it this way. You could have done this better. It could have been something else. That comes across more easily and frequently than just appreciating the effort or whatever work has been done. So I think through my practice, I have been working to understand and embrace that and try to see it in a more positive light. That there is always a better way of doing things. So I have been incorporating, I think, bringing in more of self-appreciation and expecting less from outside. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but it was on my mind and I thought I would share when we are talking about the topic of appreciation.
It makes so much sense. And yes, this it makes so much sense what you're saying. There's a development of gratitude. JM, remind me of the points, because I got distracted and it just went out of my head. I had something really good to say about it. Preeti, say it again.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
So what Preeti was suggesting was, in case, because people have tendency to give feedback. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. So yeah, this is I've written about this recently. Once I was listening to a radio interview on public radio, and the interviewer, the interviewee, had said at a certain point, because the interviewer actually corrected the interviewee because he thought he said something that might be taken the wrong way. So he said, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't say it like that." And rather than become reactive, the interviewee said, "Okay, I live to be corrected." And I like that phrase and the mood that he did it. And things went along swimmingly after that. Of course, it doesn't mean that we just give in to everything, but it does mean that if we keep that mindset that I can be corrected, I can be self-adjusting, and I can take help from outside, there's no limit to how much we can increase. There's another point also. I once took a seminar, Leadership and Management, and it was an excellent course, 4-day course. And the teacher gave this one section about how to give advice to other people or how to give criticism. So he said, always make it a sandwich. First, tell them something they did right, then give the advice about how to make it better or criticism. And then finally, tell them one more thing for the other side of the sandwich that they did well. It goes down much easier. Timing is important also. If someone's just coming off a stage, for instance, they just gave a talk and they're a little bit vulnerable, and you say, yeah, you could have said it a different way. It might be really hard for them to digest, but if you wait till the next day, everything's calmed down. So from both sides, we can learn to take more, as you were saying, Preeti, and we can also remember what it's like to get it and to be really careful when we give it out. Oh, who had their hand up and they just dropped? Oh, wait a minute. Angela? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to just share a BKM, very tactical on appreciation and gratitude. It's been a while, I don't do anymore, but I used to do a lot with my son. Every time I was extremely irritable or uneasy or things go wrong all the time out there, right? So me and my son, we would play the alphabet of gratitude. And it was my turn. A, I'm grateful for Apple. What the first thing that come up to your brain. And then his turn, B, da 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 da. I don't know what is the magic, but very, very, very rare I would reach the Z. I remember one time I had to go all the way to Z and start over again, but it works. It really, really works. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because bring you to the present, but it is a great topic. Thank you so much for bringing for us, Daza.
Oh, that's a total winner, Angela. Thank you very much. And start at the beginning. I remember somebody who said, if you want to get depressed, you could start naming all the diseases in the world, all the ones in A, B, C, D. They go on and on. Like, wow, what a dangerous place. But it's what where we place our attention, again, that we're going to go. And I like the game. That's really practical. I'm going to try it out today, in fact. Everyone likes it. Okay, and then we had something on the board here from Subhadra.
yeah. Subhadra would like to speak, or should I just read it out?
She wants you to read it.
Okay. Subhadra is stating that mind rejecting and accepting what it does and doesn't like or want and doesn't want. Please give us insight how to appreciate what mind doesn't want. How to be grateful for what we don't want.
Well, one thing is to see things and circumstances in the term of selfless service. And I'm going to bring that up a little bit later here. It's something that Krishna brings up in the Bhagavad Gita. As we go through the course of life, there are certain environments we like better than others, right? For instance, some people don't like it to be really cold. Some people don't like it to be really hot. Most people don't like extremes in temperature or weather and so forth. And there various kinds of foods we like or don't like, and so forth. But in the Gita, Krishna says there's an inevitability that there are going to be circumstances that you don't like, and there's also parts of your duty that you have to do that you might not like to do. In fact, that's the theme of the Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna doesn't like the way his job's going. So he said, I think I'll quit. And Krishna says, no, you're not gonna grow if you quit. You have to stay in it and make your mind equipoised as you go through it. And actually, if you look at things from the terms of, or the context that I'm using whatever comes to me to either grow or to use in service, then you rise above the plane of likes and dislikes. Even with, the way we get ahead in many places, like let's just say for health, you might make certain decisions based on what's good for you, and you might change your diet. I didn't used to like blueberries. I thought they were too tart. And then maybe I wasn't getting the right blueberries. But then I read about blueberries and said, hey, this is a superfood. And I said, I changed my mind. I'm going to like blueberries. And now it's one of my favorite berries. The mind's malleable. It can be changed. I'm not advocating that you have to do that with everything, but I'm just saying that you can form your mind in different ways and accept what's a higher principle for the mind, or the mind can accept a higher principle, or you can train it to do that with your intelligence. Looks like another comment came in, JM. Can you see it?
Yeah, sorry, I have issues in unmuting myself. So J. Kali says, I'm grateful for your generous and inclusive life guidance and the freedom to attend as I'm available. I need to drop. Namaste.
Okay, thanks, J. Kali. Thank you so much for being on here and for appreciating. Okay, Jam, I'm going to show a few more slides. Oh, yes, somebody else was speaking up. Please go ahead.
CK, did you have something to share?
Yes. So in my situation, I have a daughter. She's going through high school and applying for college. And there is quite a bit of tension and stress, as you imagine, while applying for colleges. So what I felt is that oftentimes, even though my daughter is doing a great job, I can feel internally, but I was so critic of mundane things about not being on time while applying for the college and getting mad about it and disappointed and showing my disappointment in front of her instead of appreciating what she's actually doing and the way and the things that she's actually achieving. So how do you teach yourself or learn that you see the good things and you see the things that you don't want to see, but still when you see it, how do you control or convert that non-appreciation thing into appreciation of what the things are being done actually correct or done properly? So this is happening for last several weeks because it's really a stress time. And I would like to hear some wisdom on this, like how you behave better than what I'm doing right now.
Sure. CK, what a nice question. I'll put it back to a book I read many years ago that helped me in many ways throughout my life. It's called The 1 Minute Manager. It's a tiny little book. I think it came out in the late 70s or early 80s. I can't remember. The technique that this author recommended for management was, and it works with interpersonal relationships too, I guarantee you can try it, and that is to catch people doing something right and then give them a 1 minute appreciation. his claim, and I've tested it numerous times, is that when you look for people doing something right, no matter how small it is, and then you give your appreciation for it, as you'll see in one of the subsequent slides here, whatever you appreciate appreciates. Appreciate has two different meanings. One of them is to increase in value. And so if you look for those little openings where the person or persons on your team are doing something right, and then you take a moment to really appreciate that, that's what starts to grow. And you also find that when you don't appreciate them because they're not doing anything that's worthy of being appreciated, they'll start to notice it. In a culture where you're appreciating things that are doing right, when you're not doing it, they start, I must be doing something wrong. That's the person's theory. I've tested it out in numerous circumstances, interpersonal relationships, and also in team building, and I've found it to be highly effective. So it's something you could try for a couple days and just look for in your daughter, like, what did she do right? And it's like, oh, I really appreciate this. And just see how it goes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I will try.
All right.
May I also suggest, like, you have this reflection already. You could pull her aside and say, hey, kid, you know, I know you've been stressed. I know I haven't behaved as positively, but I want you to know I see you. I see what you've accomplished, and that's really awesome. And just maybe even just having that step, plus these tiny things as you go forward, right? Then she knows, oh, he's appreciating what I've been doing. He sees me, right? So may also help.
Yeah, I have been doing it, but in the mix of things, both are happening, like appreciation and non-appreciation, both are happening. So I want to see whether the conversion of the non-appreciation or being disappointment of things that are not happening the way how you expect to happen, how do you behave when the things are not going, though you are appreciating the things that are still appreciating, is how do you balance not appreciating the things that are not happening right, and also to make them happen in the right way at the same time? So
one of the lessons in the Bhagavad Gita, CK, is nothing happens the way we expect it to ultimately. And expectation is the mother of disappointment. So one of the ways is to adjust our expectations, also being more flexible about what outcome, is okay with us.
Yeah.
So many times it looks like it's going the wrong way, but actually, oh, I'm glad it did. Otherwise, something else less helpful would have happened. Go ahead, Jam.
No, I was just going to add to what Zila was also saying. 6 months ago, my son, he got a driver's license, so he was eligible to now start practicing. And of course, the adult has to be there, so mostly I sit next to him. And depending on, like, you can see so many things while the driving is happening. And many times you need to keep quiet because you can keep pointing it out, but you need to trust him that he, like I might think he's going faster, but he knows how much quickly he can react. So what speed it is going, not faster, but in the sense it's still within limit, but just I might have done this way or that way, but he's doing it the way he's comfortable with. So after a while, I got more comfortable in terms of how he's driving, because I know it's not the way I would have driven. So it's also trying to understand what their plans are and how they are. Like, once we start understanding this is what they are thinking, then you can put yourself, yeah, that makes sense. Most of the time it will make sense. Sometimes, yeah, you may have some adjustment. Maybe you're not thought of this or that kind of, maybe you may bring up some point which they may not have thought, but most of the time what they're thinking, yeah, it's logical, it makes sense. They all are very, very smart kids, actually. So that I found it useful, helpful to trust them more by getting information that they have in their head, so that we feel at peace also. Yeah, that makes sense.
Practical advice from the road. Marilia.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm glad that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I actually just wanted to share because I recently had a similar experience where, also my child, did something that I felt shouldn't have been done in my eyes because I would have done it differently, right? So my thought is, no matter what, and agreeing with you on we need to adjust our expectations, not have expectations, because we are all different and we're all individually made with our own mind and willpower, and we are who we are, and we may still be on a learning path and still growing into who we will ultimately become. And so by pointing out, no matter how gentle, could you have maybe done it this way, instead of, it may just open up an opportunity for that young adult to backlash. Like you get a backdraft from fire when you're a fireman sometimes. Well, you might end up getting that and feel emotionally worse than you did to begin with. Maybe, gosh, I would love to have learned, if it were me, and, not pointing it or directing it towards them, what they could have done differently, but maybe what you would do if you personally were in that situation. Then that plants a seed within them that might sprout and grow someday.
Very helpful points, Marilia. And last night we were talking about how, although we may be making a point that somebody, where we're offering some suggestion for improvement, the way that we deliver it makes all the difference in the world. And one of the realms that comes into is customer service and training. Yes. They have this little bridge called Feel, Felt, Found. When people have a complaint, you say, oh, I know how you feel. Been there before. I felt that too. Here's what I found. And it's sort of an indirect way of giving a story that from your own experience, and you also empathize with them. So it's not so direct, perhaps.
Yes, but if it's not direct, then they don't feel a defense mechanism coming up. You're using your own self as an example, so it's not directed toward them and they don't become defensive. And I love the sandwich. I always try to be that way. Put something nice out there and point out what they're doing amazing and say, and then maybe direct it towards yourself and then wrap it up with something positive.
Yeah, make it a wrap. There are several instances in this, the quintessential book on bhakti called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's a sage and he's instructing a king. So kings were very much open for guidance back then, but still they're kings. Everyone tells them they're doing it right. So the sages, they have tenure. They can't be fired from anything. So they feel free to give this advice to kings. So there's a sage named Narada, and he's speaking to a king named King Prachinabharishat. And so in order to instruct him what he's doing wrong, because the king was really blowing it in a lot of ways, Narada came up with this allegory about another king called Puranjan. And he tells this extensive story about the life of Puranjan. It's actually, to the reader, you're saying, oh, he's talking about Prachinabharishat. But he instructs him by giving him another story about another person. At the end of the section, the king realizes, oh, he's talking about me. But it's already, the lessons have already gone in. So I thought that when you mentioned how important is the approach, we can't emphasize that enough. Thanks, Marilia.
Thank you.
Okay, Raj.
Yes, Vish. I had a thought to share with CK as well. So when Vish is talking about gratitude, the other word that always rings in my mind is entitlement. So Vesh previously also said that we should have higher gratitude and lesser entitlement. So that is something I'm trying to put in my mind all this time. And whenever I make a behavior that is not something that I would really like to do, after some time or a day or two, I can see that I had a lot more entitlement in that moment of my reaction, which I could not realize at that moment. But if I take a step back, I can always relate to not many, all of the incidents that I was 100% having a higher entitlement of something happening at that moment. And yeah, so I'll just think of it more gratitude and less entitlement.
So we can make a little graph with inverse relationship.
Yeah, I'm also thinking
that'll be good. I like those little graphs. You could just look at them and understand. Pardon you were saying something more?
Yeah, so I didn't think of a graph, but I was thinking of more of a big poster or picture in which I have a big word of gratitude and a smaller word of entitlement, so that we can try to lead life with that.
Well, Raj, you're really tuned in. You're going to see this is a segue into the next slides. Let's go back to the slides and get into this point about entitlement. If it's the next slide, then okay, it's not. But so another point about gratitude is that it's personal. You can't have gratitude unless it traces back to a person. And as an example, if you steal something from someone, you can't really be grateful for it because they didn't give their consent. That's what stealing is. But if somebody willfully gives you something, the intention is what you're grateful for. And so in bhakti, there's this sense that the world is actually a personal place. It all traces back to intelligence. That's why in science, we have these terms, ology. It comes from the word logos, which means there's order, there's intelligence, there's intention behind the universe. This is actually the path of bhakti. And therefore, we can have gratitude for it. If it was random, if it's only things bumping into one another and just happening by chance, then there's no intention, there's no gratitude. Next slide. I'm just dropping that personal bomb there. But to me, it's the most important slide, actually, and something to meditate on. And we can think about gratitude in terms of what's called dravya, or an actual substance. If we think it in those terms, it's the most rare and valuable substance. What if you had a little bottle like this and you could take a drop and, I don't know, put it on your wrist or maybe ingest it? And then suddenly you would see everything through eyes of gratitude. What if you had a bottle like that? How much would you pay for that? What would it be like? Well, the spiritual practice really, and the practices we talked about, are like taking that elixir, that little drop that brings us to that higher level of consciousness. Through that lens, we see the world with gratitude. We trace it back that there's an intention here for me. There's a divine plan actually in my life. Oh, there's a movie. Do we have time for a movie, JM? Yeah, okay. Who doesn't want a movie? All right, let's go for this movie that I entitled One Drop of Gratitude. Let's see what happens.
Here now. Oh, don't do that. Just hold still.
That hurts!
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Well, if you hadn't have run away, this wouldn't have happened.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing!
Well, you should learn to control your temper. Now hold still. This might sting a little. By the way, thank you for saving my life.
You're welcome.
Now you see why I called it one drop of gratitude, right? Just in 1 second. As I said at the beginning of the hour, we're half an inch away from that breakthrough, and it comes through gratitude. If we're able to practice it, first is realizing it's already there. It's a superpower that we have. That's actually our constitutional nature as conscious beings, to appreciate and to have gratitude. And so in any circumstance, if we've practiced it, if we've discussed it as we're doing now as a worthy discipline to actually see through eyes of gratitude, then we move that half inch over and the circumstances change. Okay, Jim, there's more and more and more. So we'll keep going. So I mentioned this already, that whatever you appreciate appreciates. And one of the words, the definition for appreciate is to rise in value. So just remember, whatever you pour the water of appreciation upon will come back to life, and its value increases. What's more, our value increases. Voltaire said, whatever you appreciate, from that entity that you appreciate, you also imbibe the exalted qualities. So everybody increases in value when you appreciate. It's an amazing substance, comes from that little bottle. Where are you going to get it? Okay, let's see the next. Gratitude's arch rival, entitlement, just like Raj said. So the entitled mind is never satisfied. It's like you're spoiled. You think you deserve everything, and therefore you appreciate nothing. You can't be grateful for it. So it's good to remember. And I think Raj put it in the perfect way. When you notice, if you look back at times when you weren't able to let your gratitude shine forth, it's because you felt entitled. And we're going to make a graph for the next presentation with the inverse relationship. Entitlement blocks appreciation. It's a horrible place to be in an entitled mind. And it's one of the points that this great saint, her name was Kunti, and she mentioned that in order to actually take in all the gifts of the universe, you have to be in a state of mind called akinchana. Kinchan means something. Akinchana means I don't deserve anything. Let's see the next slides. When you don't expect anything, you feel grateful for everything. Whereas expectation is the mother of disappointment. So a few points in the practice of gratitude: that the world is a miracle. I alluded to it earlier. The bored mind says this is just the same old thing every day. That's not true. Everyone is unique. Oftentimes we don't appreciate people until they're gone. Every day is unique. No one particle in the universe is the same as another. I'm moving through. Stephen Wright, he was a comedian. He made this statement. I thought it was worthy. I heard that you don't know what you've got till it's gone, so I gave away everything. Now I can actually appreciate what I had. There's common sense in that. If we're in the life of giving, and also freely giving our appreciation to others too, that's a kind of giving that's very powerful. One of my friends who's a professional conflict resolution, he worked professionally in conflict resolution. He once told me, he said, you never lose credit by giving credit where credit is due. You never lose credit by giving credit where credit is due. So giving away, giving to other people without fearing that, oh, if I appreciate them too much, I'm going to lose my stature. And what about me? Doesn't work like that. By giving, you grow. Okay, let's try more. Do we have time for this? We're really... Yeah, let's do it. It's a movie. Go for it. See if you can get it to go. Selfless service awakens gratitude. Practice gratitude. It's a discipline. You can bring your mind to gratitude. You can live in gratitude.
Oh my gosh, could I just say that that was just so incredibly amazing? I'm like holding my heart in my hands right now.
Oh, that's great. That's good. Yeah, it's it just illustrates that relief that we feel when we give ourselves in service and develop the appreciating capacity. And thank you. That was a good closing note. That's it's actually our real life. Our real life is to be happy. Our real life is to experience the miracles of the world. And counterintuitively, at least counterintuitively to the materially trained mind, all these rewards, these gifts are abundantly available at every second. They're flowing to us. And it comes by opening ourselves to our true nature, which is full of gratitude, to the superpower of gratitude. And that can be done by employing or bringing into our lives a regular spiritual practice. So thank you, everyone. So many nice points have been shared today. I'm going to go over the recording of this because so many of you made these amazing points that will add on to the program when we talk about gratitude. It never gets old also because it's such a revelation that it's part of our world and it's only an inch away. Thank you very much, JM, for keeping the lights on and keeping us all going here. And thank you, everyone, for taking so much of your time today to join the program. I'm counting the days again because I have a couple of retreats that I'm going to be conducting overseas. So I'm relishing and being grateful for these last couple of weeks that I'm going to be here. And I will be heading back part of the time to India and may pass through the Himalayas, which reminds me that There high in the peaks of the Himalayas, the yogis who live in caves do come out to find fruits and roots to nourish themselves. And when they see other yogis high on the peaks to express their gratitude and to encourage others, they have this phrase, Hari Bol, which means keep the transcendental vibration going. They raise their two arms high in the air and they say the phrase. So do you want to try it?
Yes.
Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Haribol.